Welcome to Zebra Aurora Vision Studio. In this tutorial, we'll learn about creating a custom HMI interface for our machine vision application. Building a custom user interface using a graphical HMI Designer and a large set of HMI controls is one of the main and most distinctive features of Zebra Aurora Vision Studio. Instead of building the interface from scratch using a complex programming language like C++ or C#, which takes a lot of time and effort, the user has the ability to quickly design and test the interface in a graphical manner using an inbuilt interface designer and a simple drag-and-drop technique. In this tutorial, we'll focus on building a very simple HMI interface to give you a good grasp of the basics. However, as you become more familiar with the HMI Designer and Aurora Vision Studio, you will be able to build more complex and sophisticated interfaces yourself. So, without further ado, let's jump into the Program Designer and start working on our application. Okay, to begin with, we have created a simple program. It doesn't do much apart from thresholding the image and calculating the image average. And there's also a loop filter at the end that keeps the program running. Let's run it and see how it works. As we can see, by adjusting the in-min value parameter, we get different results both for the threshold image and image average. However, in order to change anything, the user needs to run this program inside Zebra Aurora Vision Studio. At this point, there is no way we could, for example, put this program on a production line because there is no interface, so we need to build one. Please note that our HMI in this example will be quite simple, but I believe it will give you a good basis for building more sophisticated interfaces later. Okay, so how do we start and build a simple user interface for a program in Zebra Aurora Vision Studio? When we are in the main program window, it is actually very simple. Here in the toolbar, we've got different preview layouts as well as the HMI icon. So we just click it and we see that we have a new preview window called the HMI Design. We could keep it this way. No problem, resize everything, but we can also undock it just to have things on top, and this is, in my opinion, a little bit more comfortable. So here we have our HMI design window. Let's talk quickly about what's in it. The first thing is the element browser. So all the controls, all the elements present in our HMI will be available here as a drop-down menu and can be easily accessed. Next to it, we have all the different layout options. They are grayed out right now because we don't have anything in the HMI yet. The gray area is our canvas. This is the space where everything, all the controls are going to be placed. We can of course resize it, make it bigger, make it smaller, just whatever, do whatever suits us and suits our user needs. In the properties section, right now we have properties HMI Canvas. So we can set different properties to our canvas and to our application. For example, we could change the background color to something like this. If we don't like it, we can just go back. It was menu before, so we just go back to menu. We can set the background image, we can change font, foreground color, and this section called AV Executor Behavior, maybe let me resize it, and all these parameters they define how Zebra Aurora Vision Runtime is going to behave after running this project. So, for example, the programs can stay always on top. It can have the console enabled to provide the user with some additional information. We can prevent closing the window. We can have the toolbar visible we can define our own icon and so on. We won't be touching these parameters right now because we just want a simple HMI, but please be aware that they exist and that you can use them to control the behavior of your application in the runtime environment. Okay, so we have our canvas. Again, this is this area resized to the proper dimensions. And right now we are going to add the first element. All the elements that we'll be placing in the HMI are called HMI Controls. And they are grouped into different categories like advanced editors, components, containers, controls, deep learning, file system, and so on. There are too many of them to cover with a single tutorial, so I would highly recommend you going to the documentation and reading about all the controls. Right now, we would like to display our image in the HMI, and we have a couple of controls that can do that for us. For example, we have the VideoBox control. It's called VideoBox. There are a couple of different versions of this control, but we just want this basic one. So what we do, we take it and we drag it to the canvas. And we have the VideoBox control. We can of course resize it. Maybe let's place it here and let's make it a bit bigger. All right. As you can see, the control has an input called HMI control input. It's called an image, and this is how we export data to the HMI. What we do is we simply take the output image from our program, from the program editor, from, let's say, threshold image intensity filter, and just drag it to the end image. If it's green, then it's okay. If it's red, then we have a problem and we have to look for a solution. So let's do it now. Now we have a small power plug icon. It means that this input has been connected. And maybe let's close the designer and run our program. Okay, nothing happened. That's because we closed the designer. But if we open it, we can see that this image is displayed in the HMI. Also, if we adjust the parameter, then we have this result displayed in our interface. We can also look at the properties of the VideoBox control, of course, background color, and what is often used is size mode. Normal is just, it doesn't do anything to the image. If we make it smaller, it will just work like a crop. So basically it will display only the part of the image that fits into the window. But we also have a couple of different options. So we have stretch that will basically change the image dimensions to fit the dimensions of the VideoBox. As we can see, it works. There's also zoom. So it's when the image is smaller than the window, it will zoom it. Probably we'll use this one, or we have center image. So if we have a larger window, this will put it in the VideoBox center. So maybe let's choose zoom for now. Here, as you can see, we have two different options, center horizontally and center vertically. So if we click it, we will get this control exactly in the middle of our canvas, horizontally or vertically. We probably Let's say we want it somewhere here. Click it the center vertically, and we'll have it exactly in the middle. Okay, so we have our first element, the video box. We can display the image in the HMI, but now we would like to make it a little bit interactive. So we need to find a control that will allow us to interact with some parameters of our filters in our program, and there's a whole lot of them. In the control section, you can see that we have things like knobs, or we have things like text boxes where we could like input a number or a string. Then we have a track bar. Maybe I'll just show you what they look like. So that's the track bar. That's how a knob looks like. We have an impulse button, so basically we click it. We have a radio button, so we can check it, and if it's checked, then something will happen, and so on. I would strongly recommend you going to our technical documentation and just reading on all these different controls. I think that for our program we could either use the track bar, maybe the knob. I like the knob, so I'll just delete everything else. And maybe I'll move it around just to find a suitable position. Okay, maybe place it in the middle for now. We can adjust everything later. It's not a problem to resize the canvas and to get the HMI to look exactly the way we like it. Okay, so now we have two controls. We have our video box, we have our knob. Let's click the knob and check the inputs and outputs. We have two inputs and one output. So we have in-enabled input. It's a Boolean type, so basically either true or false. It defines whether this control is going to be visible in the HMI or not. For example, at some stages of our program, we could activate it or disable it. In value is like a starting value for this control. For example, we could have a starting value for our threshold or something else, but we won't be using this now. And what we are mostly interested in is out value, which is basically the value we select on the knob that is going to be parsed back to our program, to one of the filters. If we look at this control's properties, then we see that we have to do some changes in the behavior section. We have maximum and minimum. Minimum is okay, but maximum is only 100. Our thresholding is from 0 to 255 because it's a monochromatic image. So let's set it at 255. Scale change is basically the visual representation here of these marks, and number change is the step at which our values are going to be changing. So let's maybe set it to, I don't know, 10. So we have 10 and 10. Let's run the program. Now we see that we can choose the values, but nothing happens. This is expected because we haven't connected anything yet. So let's go back. Maybe let's move it. And what we do, we take out value from here and connect it with in-min value of the threshold image intensity filter. Now we have also a mark, a label here that this is connected to the HMI. So let's run our program again. As we can see, we have white image, and as we turn the knob, we see that it changes. So everything works. Okay, let's stop it. So the next thing we have in our program is this image average calculated from our image. We could display it somewhere here, and for that we will need a different control. We take the label control, maybe place it here, make it a little bit bigger. And right now I see that these two elements are like aligned either to this side or this side, but maybe I would like them to be aligned like centered. So I click Shift and I click the knob, and now everything here just highlights, and I can align centers. Same way I can move these two controls together. Okay, so now my label is placed. First of all, I'll just connect the output. So I'll take the out average value and connect it with the text. It says it's connected. Run the program. Yeah, I see that the value is 255 because this is the image average. And now I can see it's changing, but it doesn't look very good. So let's make some minor adjustments. Maybe have a border, maybe choose a different font or make it a little bit bigger. And maybe I will just align text to middle center. And the text, it's called label, be a code value, and run the program again. So I see that my image average is changing, and it is displayed in I think in a better manner than it was before. Okay, the same way we could place a label here explaining what this is. So let's have another label aligned like this, and here I won't be connecting it with anything because I just want it to be a static label. So let's name it image average, have it center, text line top center, maybe move it a little bit down. This is going to look nice. Maybe we select all these three, move them further closer to this image a little bit. Right now it's just, make it look a little bit nicer. And the last thing, I'll just maybe make a label here. Top center, and make a name for our inspection. So it will be basic HMI demo. Okay, change the font. And text line top center. Yeah, this looks pretty okay. Or maybe like this. And select all these elements and align them so that they are center. Okay, I think that looks pretty okay. Let's run it again. And as we can see, we have everything working correctly. Here we could have something else. We could have like a logo or another knob or a slider, whatever you want. This concludes our tutorial. I hope you guys learned something. I hope at this point you will be able to construct a very basic HMI in Zebra Aurora Vision Studio. This is a very complex subject. It's a subject that probably requires a lot of reading, a lot of experimenting. So I highly encourage you to go to our technical documentation and to check the documentation, for example, for controls or for the concept of HMI, how to build HMI, as well as the examples. So if you go to the example browser, yes, we want to save our program, you can see that there will be many HMI examples. You have HMI application saving state, camera selection, and so on, handling events, password protection, recorder. There are many HMI examples, and starting with an easy interface like this one, and then moving to the documentation and the examples, I guarantee you that you will learn how to build pretty complex, pretty sophisticated interfaces in no time. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you next time. This concludes our tutorial. If you want to learn more, please take a look at our technical documentation available at Zebra Aurora Vision Developer Portal. You can find links to the sections of the documentation relevant to this tutorial in the video description below. Thank you for watching. For more information on Zebra Aurora Vision software products, visit us at aurora-vision.zebra.com.